Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for USVI News. I'm Emily Matson. The world is dealing with the reality of war in Europe after Russian President Vladimir Putin launched a large-scale attack on Ukraine. President Biden spoke with the Ukrainian president overnight, and he huddled with his national security team following Russia's invasion into Ukraine. Natalie Brand has more details from the White House.
Explosions rock cities throughout Ukraine, and Russian tanks could be seen crossing the border as Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine has begun.
The attack is ongoing in many areas, and we need all the support, all the additional support we can get from our friends and allies.
President Biden said Russia alone is responsible for the death and destruction this attack will bring.
Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war, and now he and his country will bear the consequences.
The president has warned of unprecedented sanctions against Russia in response.
In today's actions, we've now sanctioned Russian banks that together hold around $1 trillion in assets.
President Biden has said U.S. forces will not fight in Ukraine, but thousands of U.S. troops are positioned in nearby NATO member countries.
NATO is now going to have functionally a border right up against a hostile Russia-controlled Ukraine.
Thursday morning, cars lined up at the border checkpoint into Poland as people try to flee Ukraine any way they can.
What are your immediate plans?
None. Get to the U.S. Assistance Center down the line and then ask them where to go and what to do, what they think is best.
U.S. forces in Poland have already set up camps to begin receiving refugees.
And the Pentagon announced an additional 7,000 U.S. troops will deploy to Germany to reassure NATO allies in Europe that America stands ready to defend against any Russian aggression against NATO partners. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine is hitting Americans at the gas pump. Tensions half a world away are already driving up the price of a gallon of gas, and analysts warn there is no relief in sight.
Gas prices are at their highest in more than 7 years, and with tensions rising between Russia and Ukraine, things could get worse.
The last time I filled it up was about 110.
The pain at the pump is being felt nationwide as gas prices have been surging for 14 months, with global demand for oil back to pre-pandemic levels. The national average for regular gasoline is $3.53 a gallon, up 20 cents in the past month. And it's much higher in the VI. It's averaging $3.70 on St. Croix, $3.99 on St. Thomas, and $4.60 on St. John.
The global oil supply is still kind of tight. And then you have this uncertainty about what's going to happen with Russia and Ukraine, and that throws a lot of other uncertainty into the mix.
Russia is one of the world's largest oil producers, and if the crisis escalates, some experts fear Russia could cut off natural gas exports in retaliation for sanctions by the U.S. and the European Union. If that happens, the absence of a major oil exporter like Russia could increase global demand for oil from other countries, which could impact retail prices here at home.
If we were to see Russia potentially withhold energy exports, the question would be who could make up for that?
President Biden pledging to use every tool available to limit gas price hikes as his administration faces pressure to dip back into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Back in November, they announced the largest ever release of emergency crude oil from that supply.
I want to limit the pain the American people are feeling at the gas pump. This is critical to me.
The Biden administration is engaging with oil-producing countries to increase production. $1 million is coming to the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Health to help strengthen the territory's STD prevention and control. The $1 million federal grants from U.S. Health and Human Services and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. VI Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett says these funds have been allocated to help the VI Department of Health in providing the necessary education and preventative measures against sexually transmitted diseases in our territory. Plaskett says STD prevention and control efforts are essential, so she's hopeful that our local health department will be able to use these funds in a way which will benefit our community. Positive cases of COVID-19 remain steady throughout the territory. According to the latest numbers from the VI Department of Health, there are 112 active cases territory-wide, with 79 on St. Croix still, 29 on St. Thomas, and 4 active cases right now on St. John. A new study is highlighting a growing worry over the long-term effects from the coronavirus and how it leads to potentially dangerous heart problems. Dr. Tara Nula reports.
Last year, after a COVID infection, Dr. Evelina Graver became a patient in her own heart program at Northwell Health.
And I literally felt like I just ran a marathon, that my heart was just racing.
Good job! Good job! Dr. Graver is a marathon runner, but couldn't even make it up a flight of stairs.
I decided to no longer play my own doctor and actually seek medical help.
Graver had long-haul COVID. She was diagnosed with myocarditis or heart inflammation. Her heart was failing to pump normally.
That must have been extremely scary to hear that your heart function had declined as a result of COVID.
It was very scary because we know the risk with the myocarditis of sudden cardiac death. My first night was the scary one. All I kept on thinking to myself was like, please let me just wake up in the morning.
A large study from Washington University found in the year after getting COVID, patients were at increased risk for developing 20 cardiac problems, including stroke, heart attack, myocarditis, and irregular heart rhythms. Even younger, healthier people were at risk, as were those who were not hospitalized for COVID.
Do you worry that we're going to be seeing more and more cardiac problems down the road for millions of Americans that have been exposed and infected?
I do. I think the fact that we're literally just beginning to scratch the surface of it all.
Study authors estimate COVID infections have led to 3 million cases of heart disease in the U.S.
VI government leaders want to hear questions, comments, and concerns directly from the students at the University of the Virgin Islands. Governor Albert Bryan Jr. and Lieutenant Governor Tregenza Roach host a special edition of the Press Box to address issues and answer questions from UVI students during a special town hall format of the program produced by Government House. The governor and lieutenant governor answering questions and listening to comments posed by the students during the 90-minute program, which is taking place Thursday night at 5:30 p.m. You can watch the full program afterwards on the Government House USVI Facebook page. As Black History Month continues, we take a closer look at how one historically black college is giving young black men the opportunity to grow, thrive, and change the narrative for future generations. Daryl Ford.
Morehouse College, a historically black men's institute in Atlanta, is home to just over 2,000 students. Founded in 1867, these buildings and classrooms have seen generations of notable alumni. Civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., filmmaker Spike Lee, and actor Samuel L. Jackson are just a few who once walked these sacred grounds. It's something students like singer Khalil Otis take seriously.
It's always kind of a powerful thing to know that I'm in a place where my ancestors were.
Otis also wants to gain a better understanding of who he is as a black man and the potential challenges he may face in the future. It's one of the reasons why he enrolled in a new program called the Black Men's Research Institute.
The Black Men's Research Institute is about ensuring that the narrative of the experiences and the lived opportunities of black men can be told, can be heard.
The Institute, the launch pad for a Black Masculinities minor at Morehouse, teaches students courses based on economic, social, and cultural outcomes that could affect black men today.
We want them to really have an opportunity to think through the full range of what black masculinities are, how they show up, and the ways in which they really touch into community.
In 2020, the often called Year of Racial Reckoning, many of the challenges black men face came to light. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, black men have the highest unemployment rate, and the NAACP says African Americans are incarcerated at more than 5 times the rate of whites.
It caused them to look and think and understand, well, maybe there is something going on that's systematic and systemic in this society.
For Otis, his goal is to become a professor and teach on the confines of black masculinity. He hopes the Institute will continue to evolve and also give black men a safe space in continuing to find their identity and invest in their future.
I hope that this program will allow that to manifest in a space like Morehouse.
I'm Daryl Forges reporting.
Morehouse College is the only historically black all-men's college in the U.S.